Here we go with a new adventure starting on the channel called Orb on the movements of the earth. So I'm really interested about this story. I've read so many positive things about it and I think that I will like it a lot. Fortunately, there are just 25 episodes, so this story is not that long. But anyway, hope you enjoy it. Let's watch the first episode together. Eh, a lot. Your entire life, actually. I see. Can I say that I already like it? Okay, I said it. I don't know why I have great feelings about this story. Okay, so this is the main protagonist. I saw the trailer. So well, we are in the 15th century, so oh, this voice acting, I like it. Yeah, we are scared of pain, definitely. Okay. That would be amazing. Rafal. Okay. Yeah, at that time they thought about that. But I'm interested about the church, you know? That's something interesting. No, I don't think so. Astronomy? Oh, theology! Okay. At that time it was like that. Mm. Oh! I completely agree with Rafal. Yeah. Okay. Mm. Oh, okay. No emotions. He's tricking others. And he's also using others. Wow. Oh, oh. Yeah. At that time, God was untouchable. Wow, did you see the tension that was created because of a sentence? Yeah, at that time it was like that. But even nowadays it's like that. Huh? Ah. Yeah, because you couldn't choose one and also the other one. Oh yeah, because they go against the church in this case. Yeah. You chose a theology, so you can't be an astronomer. Think about it, if he was discovered doing astronomy one more time, yeah. But I think you're interested in astronomy more than theology at this point. I mean, he's attracted by stars and planets and whatever. I don't think it's possible. But if he does that, he's forced to follow emotions, and that's something he doesn't want to do. Or let me say, it doesn't matter if it's far. If you're interested, you should follow what you're interested. But at that time, it was not that easy. Because of what he's thinking. Yeah, heretics were heretics because they thought something against what the church was thinking. Uh, yeah, that's the same person we saw that before who was torturing the other person. Maybe that person was a Hubert. Ah, no, 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 okay. Let me see if Hubert is that man we saw before with that monk. No, it's not him. No. No, no, I thought it was the man that was. Oh, he understood that he was faking it. Where does he take him to? No. No, you don't want to quit. Rafal, be honest with yourself. Otherwise, you can't go anywhere. Follow what you want to do, no matter if it's against the society of the moment. Use your brain Yeah. Yes, use your brain for this greatness. Yeah, but I hope that this Hubert is not using Rafal for his intentions. And you should do the same, Rafal. Oh. No! Oh! Oh! He's gonna use him. Eh, that's not nice. So he was already a heretic. Okay. No. No, I disagree with this. I mean, you shouldn't involve young people to do what you want. No matter what's the point of what you do. Yeah, but he has no other choice, Rafael, now. So he is forced to do that. But so he will not take a theology anymore? Huh? Uh, I think you will change your mind, Rafael, after a period of time. I mean, maybe you can learn a lot from him, but he used the wrong approach. Now you will go, because then he's gonna search for you. See? Are we sure that the Hubert doesn't know Rafael in another way? Because why did he want him specifically and not others? For sure, he's against the church. Uh, Now he's gonna tell him. Oh wow, yeah. Nice question. For you, yes. How do you feel? But he doesn't want to be involved with feelings, so he doesn't even want to give an opinion about it. Certo. Oh, he's sincere to himself. Mm. We. Yeah, but at that time it was impossible to think something like that. Yeah, for Rafael, this is a shock. Eh? Mm. Mm. Yeah, but we needed to understand who he really is. Eh? Heliocentrism, yes. Okay, I thought that I would have liked this story because of the premises, because of the trailer that I've watched. And I know that even here in Japan, this story was very popular. We go back to the 15th century, a century that was very important not only for art but even for science and discovery. I think the this story might be controversial sometimes because here it's involved science versus church. And you know that when we talk about church, we have to be careful sometimes of what we say. There are people who believe in God, and there are people who don't, because they prefer to believe in science instead of believing into a specific religion. And at that time, you had to be careful about what you were saying about the church because otherwise you were considered a heretic. and you were burnt alive, like the cases of the witches or all these people who were going against the church. At that time, the church was pretty powerful. Even now, church is really powerful. I'm talking about the Catholic Church. And you know that everyone who was making the mistake of saying something different or saying something opposite from what the church was saying to believe, that was it. I mean, you were considered a heretic. And as Hubert is saying, after the second time you were considered a heretic, you were burned alive. There was no other choice. In this story, we have the main protagonist, Raphael, who is a young boy who has a lifestyle that is very intelligent, in my opinion, because he thinks that rationalism is the most important thing. He doesn't want to be submitted by feelings, and he prefers to trick other people by thinking that they know him, even if they don't really know him at all. He is playing a role in society by manifesting how intelligent he is, so other people can think that he's very smart and that he's really intelligent, so he can go to university. At that time, to go to university, it was not like now. It was a blessing, something like a miracle, because not so many people had the chance to do so. So he pretends to be something that he is actually not, because he is hiding his sincere feelings and his sincere thoughts about things. So even when he was talking to his teacher, he was pretending to always follow the right choice, always say the proper things. So this teacher was amazed by what he was saying, and he was praising him. That's what Raphael really wants, and we still don't know anything about his personal life, so we can't judge Raphael so much. But the good thing that I liked about him is that he's really smart, that he wants to decide what to show to society until he meets this man who is giving him such a different vision of the world. Talking one more time about Raphael, I want to say that at that time it was very difficult because you had two paths. You had to choose between a theology, like in this case, or astronomy. But the people who were choosing astronomy, they could have become pretty controversial, because the church was observing all these people who were talking about it, because the most important thing was to say that the earth was the center of the universe and not the sun, as much as we know now, called heliocentrism. That's interesting, because nowadays we have a completely different vision. I mean, after heliocentrism was spreaded, now of course we think that the sun is in the center and all the other planets are rotating. But at that time it was very interesting about how convinced they were that the earth was the center of everything, based on the church vision. Because of course we know that if you believe in God, you believe that God is watching on us only, and not on any other galaxy, and not on the universe itself. We are the center of everything, and we only believe that God is looking on us and taking care of us only, While, of course, with the heliocentrism, we understand that we are not alone in this universe. There are many galaxies, there are many other worlds unexplored, and we lose this importance. I mean, while the church gives us the importance as a human beings, as if we are elected in this universe. On the other side, the heliocentrism demonstrates you that we are nothing compared to the entire universe, so we can't be on the first place, we can't be elected. And this is interesting. Yeah, I think that now I understand why Chi was pretty popular, because nowadays there are still people debating about who we are, about where do we come from, who created us, these mysteries that are still unsolved. And that's why I think that this story can give us great emotions, even if Rafael doesn't want to be involved with them. And I think that little by little, this Hubert will help Rafael to explore his feelings, to choose what he really wants to do, because he doesn't have to care about what people think, even if, I repeat myself, in that kind of society, this was very absurd to think. I mean, you couldn't do whatever you wanted. You had impositions, you had rules, precise and defined rules to follow, and if you didn't do so, the risk was that, I mean, to be burnt alive. That was very, very strict, and compared to what we live now, yeah, I mean, especially nowadays, even nowadays, sometimes it's very hard to say what you really want to say, because you are afraid to be targeted, you are afraid that people will not understand you, you are afraid that people don't get the point of what you have to say. Let's say that in this era, in the period we live now, everyone is judging what we say, and we can be condemned, publicly speaking. So even if it's in a different way, of course we are not burnt alive. My question is, did the world really change, or is this just a way to dissimulate what we are really living? This anime can give you lots of great questions to talk about, to explore. It can let us think a lot. And I'm really happy to have joined this adventure, because when it's about an anime that you can think, that you can guess, that you can give your opinion, these are the stories I'm living for, and I really like these. Another thing I want to say is that Raphael doesn't want to reveal his feelings, but I think, as much as I said during the reaction, that Hubert will help him to discover more about himself and to have the courage to do what he really likes, because he was following a theology to impress others, but we understand that he really likes astronomy. He's fascinated about it, and it would be a shame to abandon these researches he started to make. And in fact, Hubert said, look, I've never abandoned my researches, even if I was forced to. And I think that Raphael will take inspiration from these, and he will follow what he's instructed by. But there is always a problem when you have someone who tells you what to believe, what to think. Then automatically you are forced to think the same. I mean, you are influenced somehow. It would be nice in the world, even the world we live now, to have an independent opinion. I mean, to not be forced to follow someone specifically, and to not think about what other people think. We would like to have an independent opinion, and I don't know if Raphael can do so, because on one hand he has the teacher's version of the story. I mean, he is following school, and on the other side he's following Hubert now, that he's giving him such a different vision of the world. And of course he was shocked, as if he was having a sort of epiphany, like someone who is disclosing in front of his eyes this new vision of the world. So I think that Raphael right now is pretty confused, but I hope that he's not getting influenced too much from both sides. This is too difficult to do because we were born in a society with already beliefs and the concepts that are already pre-ordered, and it's very difficult to detach ourselves from what we live every day and to have our own vision of the things. It's so difficult to do so. But I hope that Raphael can find his way, because I think Raphael is a pretty interesting character that can give us lots of great surprises about what he wants to do. Last but not least, the teacher. Did you see that as soon as this classmate of Raphael was trying to say something like, wow, you are like God or something like that, the teacher transformed as if of course, he was following the propaganda of that period. That means, no, you can't say this. Refrain from saying this and say sorry, or reject what you said before and say the contrary. That's a kind of dictatorship, if you think about nowadays, because you're forced to believe certain things and you can't say the opposite. That's the typical totalitarianism that we can find even nowadays, in the world we live. It was good to see the difference of the facial expression of the teacher while that classmate was saying something like this. Because at that time, you couldn't consider yourself on the same level as the God's level. You couldn't even say anything bad about God because you were tortured, like you saw in this episode. If you were going against the church, it was the end for you. Somehow you were imprisoned, you were considered a heretic, you were burnt alive. There were many different ways of torturing you, but the way in which this propaganda was going on for centuries, until things a little bit changed even in the 16th century, that was intense. Yeah, I remember when I studied philosophy that one of my favorite philosophers was Nietzsche, and he was discussing about the importance of God in society. And I still remember when he was saying that God is us. And that sentence was a pretty controversial at that time, because no one could compare himself or herself to God. Okay, especially himself, because at that time the consideration of women was pretty low, or none, let's say. But you couldn't say, I am God. You couldn't say that, because God was on another level, and it had to be so. Not only politically speaking, but even religiously speaking, and as for the society itself. So I really like this story because, as I told you already, nowadays you have different visions based on what you believe. But the point is that if you attack the church, if you say something against the church, you become controversial somehow. For sure, we have a vision of the church right now, especially in these last years, that is changing. But I think that this story is not just about the usual contrast, science versus religion. It talks about even humanity. What people think, what people follow, if it's good that people follow certain things, if it would be better if people just follow their own instinct and their own feelings based on what they really like, or if it would be better to follow these ways in which the society is built. So we have so many things to discuss about. But anyway, stay tuned and keep on watching. Thank you so much for the support, and see you next time with episode 2 of Orb on the movements of the Earth. Thank you, and see you in the next video.